Your dictation will start in 3 seconds. 3, 2, 1.
Mr. Deputy Chairman, Sir, I would at the outset like to thank the honorable members who have taken part in this discussion for drawing the attention of this House to a very valuable report. The fact that he himself has contributed to this report does not in any way minimize the importance of this reference, because this report deals with a subject which is of very great importance. But because it has not any immediate sensational impact, there is sometimes a tendency for such reports to be overlooked, and from that point of view, Shri Bhargava certainly deserves the thanks of this House, and I think the thanks of my ministry for having drawn its pointed attention to this report. Sir, he has given the history of how the Vigyan Mandir scheme began. I do not want to go into very great detail of that, but the honorable members of this House will remember that the idea was originally mooted in 1983. There was only one institution established at that time. The main purpose was to bring about a scientific atmosphere in our villages. They are not so much service institutions. Sir, some of the remarks which were made today probably suffered from misunderstanding on that point, and one honorable member, a distinguished member of this House, was surprised as to how a single officer could perform so many functions efficiently. Now, if these were service agencies engaged in soil analysis or analysis of health problems or applying actual remedial measures, this criticism would have been completely justified. But in fact, the Vigyan Mandirs are conceived primarily as centers for disseminating scientific knowledge and creating a scientific atmosphere in the villages, and that is why in each Vigyan Mandir, the four most important things are the library and laboratory attached to it, the reading room, the museum, and the science club. Through the laboratory, simple experiments can be performed, partly for service purposes, but more in order to make villagers familiar with the techniques of science and to make them realize how science can be of immediate value and significance in their personal life. For example, the Vigyan Mandir officer may not be in a position to give a solution of the problem of soil analysis, but he can show by experiment how diseases spread through parasites. Of course, this knowledge is becoming fairly widespread in the country now, but in spite of that, there are areas in the country where anything which is done to spread such knowledge could be valuable. Then, the reading room with scientific literature is there. As yet, these rooms are not very well equipped because we have just begun, but there is not enough literature in the Indian languages to be of service to the villagers, and the various items of literature in English or in any other language which the villager doesn't know would not be of great use to him. The Science Museum has a dual purpose. On the one hand, of making the people in the locality aware of what are the scientific potentialities of the various objects of interest from the scientific or other points of view for those particular localities, but there is also the other purpose that through those science museums, a spirit of inquiry is inculcated in the young men. They make these collections and bring them to the museums, with the result that the museums are today the centers where cooperation in the building up of the museum gives both a sense of participation and also some preliminary training in the scientific methods of collection. Then there are the science clubs, which also have the same purpose on a larger scale by trying to bring the schools into the picture. The teachers and the pupils of the schools would be the nucleus of the science clubs, and through them, gradually, scientific knowledge and scientific attitude would percolate among the older generation. These are the main purposes, and if we keep them in view, the Vigyan Mandirs are essentially centers for dissemination of knowledge and only secondarily service institutions. We have actually decided that wherever any health clinic is established or any soil analysis station is established by the ministry concerned, the Vigyan Mandirs will no longer perform these services but refer the people to the more developed institutions run by the respective ministries. It was in this way that the Vigyan Mandir scheme began, and as will be seen from this report itself, in the first 4 or 5 years, the progress was not very adequate. There were only 18 Vigyan Mandirs when this ministry was formed in 1978. In 5 years, only 18 had been established throughout India, and we therefore felt that we should try to have a larger number of Vigyan Mandirs. Ultimately, the aim should be to have at least one for every district, but we realized that could not be done during the plan period.